IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. As we go into God knows what week of the lockdown, we've been trying to make sure that we get as much content out to you as possible. We had some interesting episodes in the last week. Cyrus Says we had Angad Singh Ranyal on it. That was a fun episode to listen to. On the Filter Koffee Podcast, we had Taslima Nasleen and Arunav Sinha on that. That was another great conversation. Karthik Srinivasan joined Varun on advertising instead. And guys, look for Pratik Oswal on Paisa Vaisa Podcast with Anupam Gupta. That was another great episode. I'd also like to let people know that the show that we're doing with Ms. Rashish Vidyarthi, Begin the Journey, is now going to be releasing 3 times a week. So do check that out. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And let's get started with your show.
I am forced to think about every relationship, every friendship, everything that I've done, every thought, every penny coming in, every penny going out, washing clothes. I have blisters. And I was like, man, I appreciate my mother and my father. I've never appreciated them in my entire life. I love them. They support me. But I was like, man, my mom was a nurse, a nursing superintendent, but still she cooked. My dad had a 9 to 9 job, but he used to come back and wash clothes. And Saturday he used to work hard. I'm like, man, I can't do any of this living alone. He did it for 4 people.
This is the first live show we've ever recorded in all of 60 episodes. This is live for the employees of GroupM. Thanks, Sanjana, for setting this up. And today on the show, we have 2 exciting guests. Sadia has been extensively facilitating mindfulness workshops and has been training individuals and organizations in adopting a mindful way of living. And she's been doing this for over 20 years. She's the founder and chief psychologist of Inner Space, a counseling and psychotherapy center in Mumbai, and also the founder of Mindful Spring, a service dedicated to mindful living and meditation. And I also have on the show the extraordinarily famous Abish Mathew, who is an entrepreneur, an artist, a creator, and someone who thankfully needs absolutely zero introduction. So thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out and to be on this show for GroupM as well as for the Filter Koffee Podcast. Abish, this is nothing new for you, I assume, in terms of the way you work. You've always been an independent creator who I assume creates wherever you want to.
Thank you for that 30-second introduction for Sadia and a 5-second introduction for me. I will keep that in mind. I don't have enough credit for you, but coming to your question, is this a new normal? It is not the same, but it is, for me to adapt to this situation wasn't as tough as it would be for somebody who has to, go to an office. It's just, I have to stay at home now and I have to work. So now home was a place where I never used to bring work. I used to go to a coffee shop and work, or I'll go to a new place, I had that. But now the living room is where I work and bedroom is where I sleep. So. And
you have, probably of all the artists I know or heard about, you probably are the only guy who has an extraordinarily packed and clear schedule. And in fact, I was told that you're probably the only artist who someone can call up actually at 9:30 and who'll be awake, right? So what's your schedule like during a day?
Are you ready? Right now, my schedule is, everybody please take note. My schedule is that I wake up at 7 in the morning, I put the geyser on, and then I will go to my kitchen where I'll put the kettle on where the water heats up. Meanwhile, call my parents on FaceTime or a WhatsApp video, and I'll talk to them, drink like an entire liter of cold water. Till that time, I'm doing the dishes if there's anything remaining. Meanwhile, I'm going and watering the plants. By the time I'm done with that, then I will go into the bathroom. I will put a bucket full of water. I will put my clothes inside it because I do not own a washing machine. What an absolute genius I am. I'll put 6 t-shirts or whatever and put it in a bucket, mix it a little bit, then I will go vacuum, then I will go mop. I do something called double mopping because I'm weird. Number one is when you take the mop and you put too much water and you just try to scrub it through. The second is the dry mop where I also sprinkle some Dettol and then I'll clean it. Okay, once that is done, Then I will go back into the bathroom. I will go wash those clothes like we've had like he stole my girl or something like that. Not that I've ever done that. But then I will shower. Then I'll come outside. Then I will moisturize and I will meditate. And then, by meditate, I attempt to. There are lots of thoughts and I put it back. Then I do something called morning pages where I go and I write down everything that I'm feeling without taking the pen off. Because that way it's like a conversation I have with myself. And then I will go make breakfast. And then I'll sit down in front of my laptop exactly in this setup. And by that time, it's 9 p.m. And I'm like, मैंने कुछ काम नहीं किया है. This is too much work. This is too much that's happening.
Hey, listen, we need to talk about this double mopping thing. That's mildly disturbing, if anything else. But Sadia, how are you doing?
Fine, but unlike Abish's day, I don't mop even once in 2 days. Maybe 3. But I'm heavy duty cooking and I have a lot of sessions to take. A lot of people have been very anxious. A psychologist's life is a little different where, when people don't have work, you end up having a lot more work. And above everything, I'm just writing a lot of, telling a lot of people are asking me, what can you do? We need help in the situation. Telling them what I can do rather than doing it. So a lot of my time goes in that, in the support. But yes, routine, there is a regular routine of cooking and washing and I'm thoda kaam chor. So I'm doing everything once in 2 days except for cooking, I think.
You know what, Sadia, for me, the last fortnight has been very exciting because and I'm using the word exciting consciously because I'm truly amazed. It's because, we were hearing about this, right. Things started to escalate. And then one fine day as an organization, we decided that we're going to work from home, right? And then we saw that everybody around us was doing this, artists, companies, industries and all of that, wherever they can. And this, without missing a beat, all of us just went to working from home, right? Like as though nothing just happened, right? It's while it's encouraging from an efficiency perspective, it's also mildly disturbing for me, right? So
I see it in a way that as human beings, we have a intellectual sense of control. We have a routine, we know where we are going to go, what we are going to do today, we crib about it. But it's still in control in some sense. And when something like this happens, unprecedented, it's like the rug gets pulled off under our feet and we become extremely vulnerable. But we have never sort of learned to deal with that vulnerability. So we quickly get into action mode and control mode and cover up the feelings with an illusory sense of control. And so underneath all of this, we are feeling unsettled, we are feeling uneasy, we don't know what's going on, we don't know how long this will last, there is fear, there is anxiety, there is also uneasiness about a whole change of being at home, routines, everything, not having help at home, etc. But on the surface, we all try to sort of just move on, just do our best. And I think from a mental health perspective, the ability to move on with resilience is good, but not acknowledging our vulnerability and sort of masking our feelings is not probably the best thing to do.
I want to look at it from what you do, right? And in your introduction, I think used the word mindful like a million times, right? What do
I'll tell you. Before that, I have a small story that reminded me of what you said, the word mindful. Once I was in one of the conferences and I was introducing myself to somebody and I said, hi, I'm Sadia. And he said, mindfulness Sadia. And I said, hashtag mindfulness Sadia is probably my name now. So mindfulness got an overly associated. Mindful basically is a very simple phenomena. It's about being where you are. That's it. There's nothing more to mindfulness besides being present. And as simple as it sounds, it's extremely complicated to be where you are because we are out of practice, right? We are not, usually our tendency is we are here, but the mind is elsewhere. There's multitasking going on, and even while you're doing the multitasking, there is more mind multitasking going on because the mind is still elsewhere. So actually being where you are, when walking, when eating is mindfulness, and it's not something we are used to. So that's the practice of being present in a wise way to what is happening now.
Right. So being in the present is the way, I'm sort of understanding.
Yes, being in the present, but there are factors associated. Being in the present, but with non-judgment. Being in the present, but with understanding and compassion. That, yes, my mind it has a tendency to go everywhere. Like Abish said, that when he meditates, he tries, but the mind goes everywhere. That's exactly the experience of being in the present. The recognition that I am not where I actually am, and then bringing the mind back and aligning it to where I am in a wise, compassionate way, in a non-judgmental way, that actually is the practice.
Got it. Abish, when we speak to our teams every day in the morning, and we speak a lot these days, right? Ever since we started working from home, we're talking about creating in isolation, right? It's a very different experience for many of us. We're all used to getting into a meeting room, at the click of a button and then just brainstorming. We're all used to that, right? We're all used to stepping out for a coffee or for a cigarette and then brainstorming there, right? But what Sadia said in terms of being mindfulness, being in the present, it's probably important more now than ever. But I'm assuming, in what you do, and you run an organization with a lot of employees, but in your craft, being in the present is a very, very important piece of what you do, right? When you stand in front of an audience, when you're about to do a show which might take any given direction.
There are two sides to me, which is what I think everyone has those two sides. One is the creative side, and the other one is the managerial side, the production side. So obviously when I started initially, I was only the creative side. Like I would always be mindful because I always want to look at the next joke. What is the next video that I can make? What's the next thing I can do? After you climb up the ladder of success, like in the sense, in my case, getting a little bit of fame and popularity, then suddenly then I can delegate that creative energy to somebody else whose work I like. So it's like I don't hire people on the basis of what they can gain from me. I only work with people whose work I'm a huge fan of because I can't do that. So when I get them, then you go into a managerial position. So over the years, what's happened is if you see this area, right, which is, let's say, production, and this area, let's say it's creative. Earlier, I was full creative. Now I've gone more managerial and I'm looking at more of this. Now, when you are in the creative space, it's like, you are very mindful because you're on stage at that time. You are completely locked in with the audience and you forget at that point in time all the life crisis you're going to. All the life crisis that you're going to, that's what you would remember. But when you come to the management side of it, you're less mindful because you're multitasking more, like Sadia said. Like I am keeping an account on my, like what the COO is doing, what my creative head is doing, what my editor is doing, what the brands team is doing. So I am doing multiple things and I'm managing all of it. And that's why like putting it onto an Excel sheet makes sense because I'm taking all my thoughts and putting it down into a note-taking software or like, me putting into Excel. So I can't be mindful when I am managing stuff, but I can be very mindful when I'm creating stuff. So example, when you go out for a smoke break or for a coffee break, like, that's when you're being mindful because it's a one-on-one conversation. And you immediately think of an idea, you crack a problem that you've been meditating upon for a very long time. And then when you go back to your desk, then you're being your managerial self. But you're taking all the ideas and you're putting it down and then you're expressing it further. So that's just, I have realized that. I don't know if it's accurate, but keeping that in mind is how I'm able to work currently. So when I do a morning call with with the people I work with, I mean, I call them friends because they genuinely are friends. That's the beauty of having a small run organization. Everyone's a friend. When you're doing an evening 4 p.m. call or a morning call, you're like, hey, how are you doing? And everyone's like, man, it's so nice to see a human face. And I'm like, great. Now let's think of ideas. And now people come with 3 ideas and we go further. So that having to switch between the two sides is what is working for me for now. When we evolve, when we grow, then slowly things need to change. So I am mindful when it comes to writing, but I'm extremely scatterbrained when it comes to running stuff, delegating, managing, etc.
The question I really want to ask you is whether you're mindful when you're double mapping.
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you this. Yeah. When I am in my managerial state, I switch on tube lights. But when I'm in my creative space, I put on the bulbs. Right now I'm putting both on because I want you guys to see me. So that way, somewhere in my brain, it switches modes. So when I'm creating, I put yellow lights on, it's more chill. But when I'm running and organizing and working on the laptop, then I put the white lights on. So that's something I've been doing for the last 10 years. It just helps me switch between two people so I can be efficient on both sides. And the more I see, more white lights are on. So I kind of dislike white lights.
I think, Sadia, Abish really needs a session with you for sure. Okay, but going to the whole aspect of the lockdown, right? And there's a couple of very interesting things I'm taking away from what Abish just said, in terms of how you're able to process it and compartmentalize it and actually put it to execution, right? Both mindful and being managerial. But this is all a privilege some of us have, when it comes to time, when it comes to our mental ability, right? I think my initial 3-4 days, when we started working from home and the lockdown happened, I spoke to a lot of people within my team, from extended teams, who were very anxious about it, right? And they do suffer from anxiety issues, and many of them, were not really sure how, they wanted to deal with it. And of course, all of these things, starting 12 a.m. today, these things don't really work for them, right? When if you have to address them, what would you like to do?
For me, see, the important thing, before we even just address the anxiety question, it's important to clarify that being mindful is not a privilege. If you're anxious, you can be mindful about being anxious. If you're busy, you can be mindful about being busy. If you're managerial, you can be mindful about being managerial. Mindfulness is not exclusive. It's not something you do on a cushion when you have time. It is a presence that you bring to whatever is happening right now. Right now I'm speaking to you, I'm mindful of that, right? If I'm feeling anxious, I'm mindful of that. So when we are feeling anxious, often the reason we are feeling anxious is because there's a disconnect between we are sitting here and our mind is thinking of a fearful scenario elsewhere. It is worrying about what will happen in the future. It's worrying about when this will get over. It's worrying about how I'm going to manage tomorrow, or how am I going to manage even in the next hour. And it is not coming back to here. This separation is anxiety. The thinking puts you into a fight, flight, or freeze response, which is very commonly understood as the anxiety response, where your whole system decides to either fight the situation or run away from the situation, or just doesn't know what to do and freezes in the situation. Either way, that's an anxiety response. And what actually happens is, if you're not getting involved into the whole conversation about the illness, you know your facts, you know what's happening, but you're not overthinking this, then you are present. And when you're present, the separation comes down, the anxiety comes down. So a very effective way of doing that is first recognizing that right now I'm just sitting here. I am maybe taking in a lot of information, a lot of news. I'm addicted to chatting with people about it, or I'm constantly checking my phone. I'm doing things that are taking me away all the time and then creating anxiety. So I come back. Time and again, the whole day you can't keep coming back, but time and again I come back, I ground my feet, I take a couple of breaths, okay, I get back into what I'm doing. So mindfulness is not mutually exclusive from life. That's the biggest misconception about what I do. It's not about not doing your work, it's not about not being busy, it's not about not doing what you're doing. It's about doing it fully, that's all. Instead of being elsewhere.
But, in all of this, one thing that we probably are not talking about at this point is how emotional this entire experience is for everyone, right? And I don't see, at least, on the calls we have on work, I don't see anybody getting fairly emotional about this. But I know that it's not just what is happening to us from a public health perspective. There is also what is happening from a political perspective, what's happening from a human rights perspective, and also the stories that you hear about what's happening to people, especially the daily wage earners, etc. They're all going to be deeply affecting you at some level, right? But my fear is I'm not really sure if people are expressing themselves emotionally as much as they would like to. But what would you say to someone who's going through multitude of emotions?
I would say that expressing emotions or even feeling emotions needs a safe space. Okay? Firstly, the safe space doesn't exist with people so easily because emotionality is seen as weak. It's seen as, although all of us go through it, somehow we all think it's a weakness to show it, right? It's one of those conundrums of humanity that there are like 6 basic emotions: anger, sadness, fear, and guilt. And yet, everybody is afraid of showing them to each other. And the reason they're called basic emotions is because everybody has them, right? So, first, having a safe space outside, of course, is important. But I think having a safe space inside is even more important. Can I be emotional with myself, first of all? Can I allow it without feeling weak in my own heart? Can I say, hey, I'm feeling sad now. I'm going to sit with it for now. I'm just going to stay. I'm going to maybe put a hand on my heart. I'm just going to stay sad. I'm going to allow it. Oh, I'm feeling afraid. Can I just sit with being afraid for some time? That is building a compassionate, safe space within myself. I'm allowed to feel sad and angry, afraid, whatever is coming up, because the situation will bring up all of this. It's going to bring up even grief, waves of loss, so many things. Loss of an old time, loss of an old situation that we are accustomed to. So can I just sit with myself, embracing myself, allowing my feelings? So first, can I create the safe space inside? Then, can I be the safe space for another person? And then, can I ask for the safe space for another person? So yes, reaching out, saying I'm feeling emotional, can you be supporting me? But for that, even for that ability to develop, first we have to accept that we can feel sad in our own hearts and it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel your feelings in a nutshell.
I think the key word there that you mentioned is allowing this to happen, right? I don't think many people realize that it is okay. It is allowed to be as emotional as you want, right? Abish, it will be interesting. You are going through all of this from a creator's perspective, right? And there'll be a multitude of things that you're feeling as an individual as well. But in some way, you're probably looking at this culturally and seeing how we as a country, as a community are responding to this and all of that, right? How's that coming along for you? How's the creation coming along for you?
To be honest, there's a lot of pressure when people say, Newton's best work or other creators' best work came when they have been, quarantined and, they create a lot of stuff. The concern is that currently, like Sadia said, as soon as something happened, all of us, everyone watching, everyone hearing later, our first instinct is to evolve. Because I think as human beings, naturally, we will first evolve because, the proverbial shit has hit the proverbial fan. So now things need to happen. When you find pattern, when there is a sense of like a momentum, now you figured it out. Okay, I'm going to get up at 7. Okay, I'm going to start doing my stuff at this. At 10 p.m., I'm going to go out and stream. And not out, inside, just stream. There's a lot of, once there is like a setup that is made, and we are comfortable with that kind of like a setup that is made, that crisis mode is now switched off. That entire crisis mode is now switched to, this is my new normal. This is when the flood of emotions come in. As a creator, it's very important for these emotions to come in because only in emotion am I creating. So like, for example, last night till 4 in the morning, till 4 in the morning last night, today morning technically. I was speaking to my cousin brother. I'm not the guy who's ever reached out for help to anyone except to my therapist. But this time I was just like, man, last 33 years I've been doing it wrong. Let me try doing it differently. I called him and I had a question to ask him. And I've never done that in my life before, okay? So I don't know why I did it, but I just did it and it felt comfortable. So when I spoke to him after an hour, 2 hours, then he said, also remember, Abish, all the things you're asking me, remember your mind might be playing games with you. And then I was like, yes, because this is not my natural habitat. I have just evolved. I am sending presentations. I'm finishing briefs. I'm creating videos. I'm editing. I'm so busy living that I'm so busy existing that I'm not getting time to live. But at night, it gets extremely tough because that's when all the thoughts come in. That's when the sleeplessness comes in. Then I will get up and I will write down my thoughts at night because in the morning, when I'm back to work mode, these thoughts are beautiful poems. I mean, I'm not saying they're beautiful for you. They're beautiful for me. Or these are some great thoughts. Like I wrote a thought last night at 4 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. It was like, I am an extrovert in a quarantine. This is like, even though those 3 words just are a sentence, but for me, it makes so much sense. I haven't seen a human face for 3 weeks now because I was self-quarantining before that as well. So for me, I'm like, oh my God, that's true. I'm an extrovert in quarantine. Now today my objective is, what can I do with this night thought in my daytime? Can I make it into a poem? Can I make it into an art form? Can I do something with it? So that happened yesterday. So I don't know the things that I'm doing. And that's what I wanted to tell. Like, you will find new patterns. You will find new emotions. You will find this new weird thing that you didn't know, because going to work was your scapegoat. Chilling with your work friends, going out for something was your scapegoat. Now you are spending 24/7 with yourself. And we do this where we put headphones and listen to music to mute our sounds. I took up a challenge a year ago to not put on any headphones or earphones to listen to music. And that is making it even tougher ever since the quarantine has happened, because I am forced to think about every relationship, every friendship, everything that I've done, every thought, every penny coming in, every penny going out. Washing clothes, I have blisters. And I was like, man, I appreciate my mother and my father. I've never appreciated them in my entire life. I love them. They support me. But I was like, man, my mom was a nurse, a nursing superintendent, but still she cooked. My dad had a 9 to 9 job, but he used to come back and wash clothes. And Saturday he used to work hard. I'm like, man, I can't do any of this living alone. He did it for 4 people. So suddenly that appreciation comes in. So I feel like there's a lot of emotions I'm allowing myself to feel. I'm not saying they're all good, but thankfully I have a therapist I go to for the last 4 years, and now I've started reaching out to my friends. So all I would say is identify those people and reach out to them, because when you reach out to them and say something that you're insecure about, trust me, they're going to hit back and they're going to give you something. And that's how you become kind of closer.
I love that part about, all the emotions that we are going through, right? Some of them very new. And I see that I suddenly have the time for them a lot. Right? In a way, I'm actually loving this because this is an extraordinary experience. And there's so much that I'm feeling. I'm finding time to reach out to people. I'm finding time, I think is the sentence, right? I'm finding time to do so many things and connect with so many people, right? And Sadia, I love what Abish said about, an extrovert in the time of lockdown. I mean, that should be a film title at some level.
Yeah.
But,
I'm totally empathetic.
And he spoke about, how he's not getting to meet as many people as he's used to. But there's the other extreme. Right? Some of us live in very confined spaces with large families. Which is something that we're not used to, right? And especially, and this is true in my family as well, especially there are, mothers and parents out there of special needs children, and this is a very, very new setup for them, right? To not have a breathing space in all of this, right? How do you deal with the entire, family angle of this, right? Not all of them is going to be pleasant, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, recognizing that, it's a multifold problem, not always enjoying spending time with your family is a two-layered problem. One is that you're not enjoying it. And two is you feel terrible about yourself not enjoying it. You feel like a bad person. You feel guilty. So there are layers. Especially you're getting time with your children and then you're not liking that time with your children all the time because it has no privacy, no breathing space. So first, it's important to make it a one-layered problem, which is let the secondary suffering, secondary suffering is a very important thing to understand. If I may quote what the Buddha taught, he said that you have one arrow in your heart. Let's say you're walking in the forest and somebody shot an arrow. You already have one arrow in your heart. Now, what do you need? You need to remove that. You need to medicate it. You need to be compassionate. Instead, you pick another arrow and put it in your heart. How does that help you? So the guilt is the second arrow. It's a secondary suffering. There's already one arrow of not having space, of not having privacy, of feeling uneasy in that space. The second arrow is, I must be a terrible person not to like my children. I must be a terrible person to not like being around my parents and so on. So first, don't put the second arrow. It's possible. It's completely okay to have a difficulty staying in the same space. We are all creatures who need connection and lack of it. We need to be connected, but we also need breathing space. All of it, right? And when either of it is threatened, when we become completely alone, in case of people who are quarantined alone, we really miss the connection. But if we are completely living in places with a lot of family together, we might need breathing space. So first, let's just be understanding towards ourselves and compassionate, but it's okay not to feel overwhelming love for our families all the time. It's okay to use this time to connect with them to whatever extent possible. And in fact, if we can draw certain boundaries and, get somebody to take over the kids for half an hour, 1 hour a day while we meditate or do our thing, and then do the same for our spouses. I think it's about accepting that this is not easy and then working through. But most importantly, accepting that this is not easy on anybody. And getting out from home is something that we all, a lot of us do like.
Right. You mentioned meditation, Sadia, and I hear this a lot, right? I'm unfortunately not a practitioner, right? But it seems like a tool that could really help, people at times like these, right? Whether it is with the family piece that we spoke about, or even from a work perspective, right? We are on a live recording, but if there is something that you can leave with people as a method, what would it be? How does one approach meditation?
We could do a small practice, just so that you know what it is about. If you're game for it, we could. And since Abish likes to meditate, I think he'll be in agreement with it.
Sorry, I was being mindful.
Let's do it.
So we could do that. Do you want to sort of do that? And another thing that I feel is a very useful thing is to sort of ground, come back, like I say, to the grounding. So let's do a short practice where we work on grounding and being. And this is something people can continue doing. Also, there are a lot of practices led by me online and people can follow that going forward also. So resources are available. It's just how to orient to something like this, which is important. And also, one more piece is important to say here is that when you learn to spend time with yourself in meditation, what happens is it's not a calm and easy process as it appears. The person who watches it from outside, it appears, this person is blissed out. I can't be blissed out. I'm a restless person. No, the person who's sitting looking very calm is also restless. And you will notice that. There's a lot of stuff happening in the mind, but you're practicing coming back. You're practicing staying with yourself. As you do this practice, your resilience develops, your ability to stay with your feelings, with yourself develops. And over a period of time, it helps you to deal with a situation like this, deal with your anxiety, deal with so many things.
So should we try something? I think it'll be wonderful to do that.
All right, let's do it.
Sure.
I'm excited.
So just let's sit comfortably. Feet on the ground if you're sitting in a chair, or if you're sitting on a ground, you can sit cross-legged on a cushion, whatever you prefer. And let's just gently close our eyes. And let's start by just noticing the connection of the feet with the ground. Just noticing. Noticing you're here. Your feet are connected to the ground. Noticing the sounds around you, whatever they may be, just accepting and noticing. Not trying to make any meaning of the sounds, simply knowing that these sounds are there in this moment. And noticing as you sit here, this is the only reality right now. Everything else that comes in the mind about the past, about the future, about another time, a plan, is simply a visitor. All thoughts are visitors. They can come and they can go. The reality of the moment is that you are here right now. And so, fully cognizant of this reality, you start noticing your breath as a way of anchoring yourself into this present moment. Breathing in, you are aware. Breathing out, you are relaxed. At every in-breath, remind yourself that you are here, aware. And at every out-breath, let go. Let go of all thinking. Let the thoughts come and go, but just try not to engage in them. Try not to indulge them. You can even be aware that thinking is happening, but not go and hold on to it. Maybe you can notice your breath in your belly rising on the in-breath, falling on the out-breath. Just notice. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go in this moment, but to be here now. If your mind gets distracted, it's perfectly natural and normal. Whenever you recognize that it's distracted, simply come back to your breath and start noticing your breath. Now, taking a few deep breaths. You will come to the end of the practice and you can open your eyes whenever you're ready.
That was beautiful. I don't think we've ever done anything like that on a live episode. But I think that must have brought people a lot of calm. For me, it was really, my issue with meditation has always been the different thoughts that just suddenly crowd into your mind. But what you said really helped, a very small tactical thing of not engaging with them. That actually thought it took me to the next level. Yeah.
That's actually the practice.
You,
it's misunderstood as being a practice of controlling thoughts, but actually the whole idea of meditation is to learn not to engage with what is happening rather than actually be able to be calm. The practice is of non-engagement rather than calmness. So that's an important piece to take away.
For me, because again, like I try meditating in the morning, so I used to use apps. Then I started going without apps, but following the same format that she was also saying. I found a good reason of thoughts coming into my mind. For example, I forgot right now that I'm doing a live recording. I completely forgot. I forgot Karthik existed at this point in time. I could just imagine it. For me, it took me back to me putting my headphones on and listening to someone ask me to meditate. So it was very that. So when she said, open your eyes, as soon as I opened my eyes, I was like, oh shit, we are recording. So I immediately came back to performance mode. So when I went back, I was like, okay. So now what I usually do is when I'm meditating as well, there's a lot of thoughts that come into my head, okay? And what happens is I allow them to float and I bring them back. Allow them to go. After some time, only important things keep coming to your mind. So then I become aware, okay, check note. When I get up from it, make a note of it and then make this come in. Like even when I was meditating, the thought that kept coming to me is that, I have to do this thing called Viva, which I do on Instagram, where I get people to come talk to me and I make a mashup and I upload it. The ideas for because I'm trying to shift that from Instagram to YouTube, I'm getting flood of ideas because in the back of my head, that's something I'm worried about because I haven't figured it out yet. So then it makes me aware that if this thought is coming to me again and again, I need to spend time and ideate on it. Instead of just thinking about, oh, aaj khane mein kya khaun? That's not important for me right now. So then I become aware that if it's coming to me 5 times during meditation, I need to spend time till the time that's not calm. That's how I'm able to realize areas that I'm having trouble recognizing. Because emotions are coming, I just don't know which of these are I can work on. So now, for example, after this gets done, I'll do Viva on Instagram and then I will sit for an hour and I'll try to ideate it and by next week implement it. So yeah.
That's amazing, right? In fact, it's very true for me as well. This sort of unclogs almost, all of these things, great ideas that were in the periphery, unable to come in because there are these useless thoughts. Double mopping and timesheets and stuff like that. Hey, we had someone ask the question which is on how do you switch off past thoughts? But I guess do you want to take that up, Sadia? The way I was answering that question in my head is what you said, right? Like not engaging with them. But is there more to it?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Past thoughts, future thoughts, thoughts of anywhere else. Are simply, it's not something that will just happen. You won't be able to switch them off. You don't need to switch them off. See, first and foremost, you don't need to switch anything off. You need to create space and a relationship with them. These are two different things. Trying to push things away creates only more resistance in the system and more unhappiness. But if you find a new way of relating to them, which is let them come, let them go. At this moment, I am not engaging. At this moment, I'm compassionate, I'm understanding towards my thinking mind, I'm just not engaging in. So as you practice this over and over and over, your brain is also learning. There is this whole phenomenon known as neuroplasticity, which means the brain learns from your tendency to behave or think in a particular way. When you think a lot about your past thoughts or future thoughts, your brain learns these are important. I need to be facilitating this thinking. When you meditate or you become mindful, your brain starts to learn, hey, these are not important. They are simply things that come and go. So it starts to help you with practice to be more present. And that's why it's a practice. It's not a knowledge. It's not an insight that I'm giving you and now that you have it, it will change. Unless you practice, nothing changes. So the practice is extremely important and it's very important to continue getting your mind back and recognizing that these are thoughts from the past. But at this moment, I don't want to engage with them. But I don't have to resist them. I don't have to switch them off at all.
The other question that we're getting right now is, and I think this is very interesting, how do we answer kids' questions so they stay positive in the current situation?
So, the most important thing is to not undermine that kids emotionally are deeply connected into what is going on in the household and the parents. Even 2 years old can sense something is uncomfortable, something is not quite okay. Being honest with children, telling them really what the situation is, talking about the way the contagion is, keeping the facts clear, minimal, and also assuring them of a lot of support and saying we'll all get through this and it's not a big deal, but we just have to go through it. So honesty and support, I think, is a very important factor in working with children.
Got it.
Don't undermine it. Don't magicalize it. Don't say, oh, it's a punishment from God. I mean, don't say any of those things which are going to create more problems. That's all.
I think, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Abish, I know you need to go back to your Instagram, right?
Sure.
But thank you so much for taking the time and being on this live session and also on the Filter Koffee Podcast. Thank you.
So that was our show. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcasts.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I am _Karthik. That's Karthik with an H on Twitter. And Filter_Koffee. That's coffee with a K on Instagram.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, a show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
बेटा, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
Way of family WhatsApp groups, worst nightmare. Where what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we are just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you will look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel.
And me, Tushar.
Every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.